Would you share your view or kind of what's going on right now in your professional and personal life with regard to connecting humans, transforming the human experience, and your role at your new organization, Better Up?
Yeah, for sure. I think post pandemic, people have been struggling with this paradigm of self while still connecting with human beings. But how do we connect with human beings? And how do we keep connections in the post pandemic world where we all have learned these new habits or these new comfort places of loneliness or solitude, right? So we've spent months of solitude, we've spent months of mastering solitude, and now we have to kind of unlearn that and get back to learning how to connect and communicate with people. And so for me, being in the events world, it gives me a platform and a space to expose that through different experiences, whether it be with Better Up or my previous organization, but just in general with events, I find that we are in a very unique place in our industry where people are leaning on us to be the answer to that post pandemic question of how do we get people to unlearn such strong solitude and get back to in person experiences and connecting in person? Because believe it or not, despite the fact that we're seeing registration numbers and attendee numbers for events get back to pre pandemic highs, there are a lot of people that are still very nervous, scared, or uncomfortable with being in person. And so it's up to us in our industry to kind of unpack that and give people the space and opportunity to get back to connecting. And that rings true to me even here at Better Up because, Better Up is all about human transformation, the positive psychology, and really just giving people the tools and resources they need to just be better at their everyday life, both personally and professionally. And so, what better mission and what better North Star to weave into in person experiences when you're surrounded by so much positivity and so much uplifting sentiment? And so, I'm very passionate about it. I've always been passionate about in person events. In fact, when we were going through the pandemic at the financial services firm that I was working at before, I definitely was one of those events professionals that was struggling a little bit because I was always traveling and on the road. And that's what kept me motivated by going to different industry events and connecting with different luminaries and different industry peers. And so when that was taken away from me, I definitely struggled. And so now that we are back to somewhat pre pandemic levels, I'm very eager and dedicated to reminding people of why it's so important to protect the human connection as much as possible, especially in a world of virtual this and virtual that, especially in a world of AI. We have to make sure that we are true advocates for human in person connection where you can see emotion, see response, feel response, because human beings are just a ball of energy. And there's just so much you can feel through a screen. There's just so much you can feel through a text or through a phone call or through a social media app. So we've got to get out of that and get back into spaces where you can feel people's energy. I think that's where people thrive the most. So I'm big on that.
I mean, we are social animals, we're mammals.
Yeah.
And, that need to connect is just innate in us. It's in our DNA, it's in our makeup, it's in our evolutionary kind of progress.
Mhm.
It's interesting because I've often said events are a vehicle or can be a vehicle. They're like a vessel and they can be this magical place for human connection.
Absolutely.
And there are a lot of terms as an event professional who's been in this for a long time, Tavar, you hear about activation, engagement, meaningful connections, being creative, on site, off site,
Yep.
shorter keynotes, get rid of the panels, interactivity, all these kind of things.